Okay, family. Where's our music?
My CCFM, my CCFM, my CCFM.
My CCFM. My CCFM.
Thank you, Ravi.
Changing lives for good.
You're crying, baby. Okay. Go back now. And should I do it? Shante. Ready?
Shante Hart coming through with it's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Taking us to 16:29. If you've just tuned in, warm welcome to you and yours. This is the CCFM Drive with Natasha and Romeo. About to bring you joy on your journey home. Thank you so much for choosing us here at CCFM 107.5. We are everywhere.
Absolutely. And of course, like we alluded, we have the Cupidos in studio with us this afternoon, of course, chatting and continuing rather with the conversation. So excited. Mr. and Mrs. Cupido, who can it?
Good afternoon, everybody. I know we're a bit late today, but good things take time, eh?
I love it. Scale of 1 to 10, how are you guys feeling today?
I'm good, good. Done some grocery shopping today, so I don't think that's very exciting. But other than that, we are good. We are good to be here.
Mhm.
And we were very early. I just want to point that out for the record, just this one time.
For the first time.
I love it. Craig,
First time.
your side?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm also 10. I think I'm only at 10.
Mhm.
Yeah. So all good. All good my side. Weather's been awesome.
Yeah,
Too hot at times, but otherwise the studio is very cool. So
yeah.
it's cool to be with you guys as well.
Fantastic. And of course, like I mentioned, we're going to be chatting about, rather continuing the conversation this afternoon. Last week, we spoke about love, the biblical definition of love and its origin, the impact our parents and or caregivers have as our first model of love, and also touched on the different types of attachment styles: secure, anxious, dismissive, avoidant, and fearful, as well as fearful and avoidant. This week, we are continuing the conversation, of course, and we're going to start off with Craig, sharing his personal point of view. And last week, I know Tina gave her personal view, and I think also just speaking from a male perspective.
Okay, just before Craig speaks, voorbarig me. Just to give a small summary of what we said last week,
Yeah.
so that when Craig gives his deeper, personal examples, then it will make sense to us. So we spoke about, like you said, the attachment styles, and there's one secure and there's three insecure. So the secure, we know this is the child that grew up in a loving home, needs were met, they were fantastic. Then we had the anxious, preoccupied. This is the child that grew up in a warm environment, but it wasn't as consistent. So this child becomes needy, abandonment issues, they become clingy.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be touching on Craig's style today that he admitted to last week, which is the dismissive avoidant. And this is the person that is good with separateness, but not so great with togetherness. So this is the child that grew up in a not so stable household. It's not chaotic, but they weren't really nurtured, right? There was a lot of emotional neglect. And we want to say again, from last week, we are not knocking any parents. We are just talking about how things that has happened to us, how it shapes us, and how we can then move forward from that. So this person likes to keep their space, right? Vulnerability is a big no-no for this person. They are someone that they are very independent because they needed to depend on themselves. There was no one that they could necessarily all the time go and look for this emotional connection. So they said, you know what? I'm not getting it. I'm not going to yearn for it anymore. I will now just depend on me. This is the person that needs a lot of acknowledgement, even though they won't say that out loud. And then last week we also reminded everyone that Craig is a very charming guy, but once you get too close, he keeps you at a distance. And then the last style, that is the person that grew up. This is the fearful avoidant. They grew up in a very chaotic home. They never ever knew what parent that they were going to receive. But Craig will elaborate.
Thank you for that context. Very important. Of course, also as Craig prepares to share, send through your comments and or questions 0617981075. So,
Yeah. So I think and last week, like I said, you asked me how was I doing, and I said I'm a five, 5 out of 10 based on what Tina was saying,
yeah.
in my style there. And when I look back at it, and I think it's for everybody to do, like try and identify which one really sits with you, and it takes some honesty to do that as well.
Mm.
From my side, my parents got divorced when I was very young, and from the moved on from a stable home to lots
Yeah.
of different places, and from there I think my mother got married again, and she got divorced again,
Yeah.
and no, my mom's fine now. Don't worry about
Lovely,
that.
lovely lady.
Yeah, lovely lady, and my dad's cool as well, and we're fine. But it actually took a big toll on me when looking back on what actually happened from in my life up until about I suppose 21, even further on. Because I'd like to think that I got saved when I was 21. Jesus saved me when I was 21, I should say, and from there, you think that things would be going in the right direction, which it probably would have. But at the same time, there was a lot I was carrying as well. So I would come into my relationship with Tina on the basis of what happened to me previously. So some of those things like I don't want to say emotional neglect, but maybe it wasn't there the love that you thought you should have had.
Yeah.
Right? And you get to the point where you're like, look, I'm the eldest son, and as the eldest, I need to step up. People told me, adults would tell me, I need to step up. I'm like, okay, what you talking about? I need to step up.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, and that's sort of the pressure that people put on you, and then you put it on yourself. You're like, look, I should stand up, I should do things, and
Yeah.
I got to the point where I said, look, I'm gonna do everything. It's gonna be me. No one else is gonna do it for you. So meaning you're not getting the love that you want. People not doing the things that you might expect as a child and things like that. And for most part, I'd like to think I have a loving family, like an extended family as well. We get along well and all of those things, but that couldn't take away from how I actually felt.
Yeah.
And what I then do is gradually, as time went on, I'd actually just start building up these walls around, especially when it comes to intimacy and things like that, because vulnerability actually breeds intimacy.
Yeah.
So when it came to Tina, for example, then sometimes we hit these blocks, and it'd be like why? And I'd know how to diffuse it. I'd know how to put up the wall. I know how to do all of that stuff. Very manipulative, actually, if you think about it. But Tina's is looking at me. But that's just the way you operated, man.
Yeah.
And you didn't even realize it, because to me it was I was keeping myself safe.
Yeah.
I was protecting myself, and that's been sort of the narrative, growing up. And so you get saved, and at the same time as well, it then becomes difficult for you to actually allow God to do those things, because you have to be honest about it. You have to be
Yeah.
honest with Him about it, and you have to allow Him to do it. So you have to trust. You actually have to trust someone to do it. So that sort of becomes the dilemma, and you get to the point where everything can just blow up,
Yeah.
indirectly or directly, because of you as well. And we all play a part in our relationships. It's more than one person. So that was my part, and it can lead you to a lot of different things as well.
Yeah.
When it comes to how do you actually deal with pain. You know what I mean? What are those things that, especially for men as well,
Yeah.
some of us who then go to, and we'll talk about social media and like some of the counterfeit stuff, pornography. It can be attention elsewhere, outside of the home. Anything that's maybe going to take your mind off the truth, and
Yeah.
the fact of the matter, and like, look, I just want to get around this, and this is how I'm going to do it. And then you get saved, and you're supposed to get to the place where, look, I'm relying on God to do those things for me. But like I said earlier, and maybe it gets to the point where it can also just be difficult, and you don't actually know how to truly give it over to God and truly surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been a bit of my story leading up into this, and even now, so like people look at you and they think, oh, you got stuff sorted out, and you do this and that, and even in last week hearing this, I was like, okay, wow, there's still things that I need to work on.
Yeah.
There's still things that I do, that still creeps up, and you have to always check yourself around that, and for me it's always like, yo, am I actually being an awesome a good Christian
Sure.
or not, and like how does it look? And it's not just about to everyone outside, man, but it actually starts at home, man, and you work your way from home up. But that's been our journey. So yeah, a lot of awareness from my side as well.
I love that you mentioned, you still have things to. I think all of us,
Yeah.
that's life. We're constantly having to work to be better, constantly working to heal. That was Craig Cupido. And of course, if you have just tuned in, I want to encourage you to send through your comments and or questions. We're chatting to them and continuing the conversation from last week.
Indeed. You can also catch this conversation live on Facebook on our Facebook page at CCFM to catch it live as well as it is happening right now. Mr. Craig Cupido, you mentioned as you were speaking about social media, how it can influence how we love, depending on what we consume on social media and so forth. Can you please touch on that a little bit more? I want us to go a bit deeper on that.
Yeah, no. So for me, I think there's obviously this good and this bad to social media.
Yeah.
In terms of it depends on how you use it or consume it. Some people can consume it for genuine information. Some people can use it. Look, I just need some time off just to relax and get some laughs and things like that. But I think it does become a problem when it is there to fill some sort of gap that you have in your life.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be any type of gap, and like I spoke about, pain for me previously would be something else. Likewise with social media, people are looking at others' lives.
Yeah.
I'd like my life to be like that, and some of the stuff isn't actually true on social media.
Yeah.
It's not true. And when we sit and we actually look at it, like really think about how much time you actually spend on that, how much of your time you're giving to that. There was actually we were listening to a message over the weekend and in church, and this guy was talking about the rituals and the rhythms of life. So it's become sort of a ritual or a part of the rhythm in life. I'm gonna spend some time with that. Some of us can't do without our phone for a long time. And yeah, to get back to the point, it's about there are some of those counterfeits that we actually replaced or we're spending our time on. It could be someone else's life. They're flying around. They've got this awesome house, and I'd want this and I'd want that. And then there could be some other things as well that is feeding another part of your soul as well. Especially from a guy point of view. So there's a lot of visual things there that you could possibly see that maybe isn't going to be the best thing for you to actually consume. And how the algorithm works, and I think Tina was going to talk about this. Sorry. It's going to feed those things that you're consuming all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not going to say it's you wanted this, then you wanted that. They're saying, okay, now this is what it is, and I mean we all know that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're just seeing sort of the same thing all the time.
It's always the good side. It's never really the raw.
No one is recording the arguments and putting it on social media. No one's recording when they are shouting at their child in the morning to get done for school, because those things are not sexy. So now you compare your life to someone, they always say to someone's highlight reel, and then you're questioning everything that you have at home based on 5 seconds of something that somebody shows you.
Yeah.
We could have driven here now, we didn't, but had a massive argument in the car. But when we come here and like, hey, you only see and hear this part.
Yes.
You don't see the behind the scenes of the hard work that actually happens. It's like a rom-com. They show you how it just ends and they meet and it's so perfect. Like, oh my word. And then we see nothing after that. We don't see the married life.
Yeah.
It's not always exciting.
Yeah.
You're making bread for your kids, you're making tea, you're sweeping the floor. There's nothing very exciting about it.
Yeah.
But it's part of marriage life. But now you see I actually saw a post once. This person was outed. She posts these wonderful pictures, like with Louis Vuitton bags and these shoes and whatever. And then they came and they repossessed the home. So she was getting these things, I don't know where, and then going to other places as if this was her home and posing at other cars. So if you looked at her on the gram, you were like, oh my word, this lady's life is the bee's knees. Meanwhile, they were repossessing a house. It's crazy. And you are comparing your life, your love life, your relationship to a very small part of what you see in someone's life.
And that influences how you relate with people.
Absolutely. Because now I can look like, why aren't you buying me roses? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And you're like, that maybe you don't, did that dude catch on something? And now you don't know. And I'm not saying don't buy flowers and don't go out and don't do those things and don't post it. just know that it's a blip
Right.
in a bigger scheme of things.
Yeah. Sure. We invite you to join in on the conversation. Now, of course, it is February, and it's the month of love. And of course, this is the context of this conversation. Last week, we touched on the origin of love. We touched on the different attachment styles. Tina shared her experience. And of course, you just heard Craig share his. And like I said, we're touching on this conversation, and we want to invite you to join in 0617981075.
Yep, enjoying in on the conversation. Loving the comments that are coming through from our listeners as well. Engaging on the conversation, loving it, mentioning how real it is as well. And of course, we're going to be continuing that. Craig, you mentioned something before we move on to the renewing of our mind that Tina was going to touch on a little bit. I think that was the algorithm. What's the algorithm about? And then perhaps we could transition into the renewing of our mind.
Okay, so I actually looked up a stat yesterday. So globally, South Africa, globally people sit on their phones on social media for 2 hours and 24 minutes. They say in South Africa, we sit on social media for 3 hours and 44 minutes. So there's a term, I'm not going to pronounce properly, it's the border-minor phenomenon. But what that is saying is, so I see Romeo's got on a red tracksuit top.
Yeah.
I like this red tracksuit top. So now it's in my mind's awareness, right? So now all of a sudden, I just see this top wherever I go. Meanwhile, the top was always there. It's just now in my mind and I'm aware of it, right? So if I'm on social media and I'm scrolling for 3 hours a day and I'm looking at a specific thing, like I said, the algorithm now picks up, okay, Tina likes red tops. Tina likes jazz music. Tina likes BMW cars. So all you're going to see in your suggested posts, in your promoted posts, are those things that you keep on looking. Now imagine I look at someone's life that I think is perfect. How many other feeds like that am I going to get? For 3 hours, I'm now telling my mind, I'm now becoming aware like, oh, Romeo has an amazing life. Romeo has an amazing life. Romeo has an amazing life. And I don't. So the algorithm is not going to stop until you change whatever you want to watch in your feed. It happens on TikTok, social media. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But just be careful what you are feeding your mind. Because the algorithm knows. They know. They can see you. Yeah.
We've got one message, guys. This is from Anonymous. And Anonymous says, my spouse has a child outside of our marriage. But our kids don't know that they have a sibling. And he doesn't know either. What can be done on the situation?
So who knows?
So it sounds like the spouse knows. Their kids don't know, and the child doesn't know either. That's my understanding.
Like the man, the husband also didn't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Anonymous, but that's my understanding.
So the child also doesn't know who his father is, basically. The child outside the marriage
That's what I'm
doesn't
understanding, yes.
Okay, so I don't want to give advice, but the one thing I want to say is there is so much data or evidence to show the lack of a father in a child's life, right? So if you as a father have the opportunity to have a relationship with a child, because remember that child might be young now, they don't know, but they're going to grow up, they're going to have questions. I know of adoptive parent kids who have wonderful lives, but they still want to know who's their biological father. Why didn't they stay? Where's their mother? There's like this nagging inside your soul that wants to know who my father is. And a father plays a very, very important role in a child's life. So if that is not there, there's like a piece of the puzzle that is missing. And I'm not saying a mother, so I'm not knocking single parents, please don't come for me. But there's a role that a father plays. So I think they will need to have a very long, in-depth conversation and think about what is best for the kids. Because maybe it was a mistake that took place, and maybe the husband or the person feels shame for what has taken place. But at the end of the day, there's a child that wasn't asked to be birthed. The child is here now. So how do we make sure that this child grows up in the best possible way, besides how I'm going to feel, but like think about that child, man. I don't know.
And I mean, the person's asking the question, so it's obviously something that has been on their mind, on their heart for a while. And I think my question is like, what type of story would you want your children to say about you? And I see it as an opportunity for honesty, and opportunity for truth, and also, trusting God that He will also be able to work it out in a way that that it can, because like Tina was saying, that child by default actually yearns to have a father.
Yeah.
It was made that way, and if we have the opportunity to change the narrative that one child could have, it could impact generations to come.
Yeah.
So, I would challenge them to maybe sit down and have a mature conversation about how they can move forward. And the thing is, that's the thing about blended families as well. It sometimes can seem very confusing and difficult at the start, but it's something that's also very commonplace in the world today, and something that you know. If you have mature parents involved,
Yeah.
then normally most of the time you can actually have a positive outcome for the kids.
And also know that if you decide to speak the truth,
Yeah.
it's not rosy immediately. So it's going to take time. So just because we take this step and we are bold and courageous and we pray and we ask God to help us through, it isn't smooth sailing after that, because it's a big deal.
Mm.
So people are going to feel what they feel. It's going to be, and they need to work that journey, walk that journey rather.
Mm.
Yeah.
People on Facebook and on WhatsApp are getting goosebumps as well. Comments coming through. There's another comment as well, saying, my mom died when I was 16 years, so I did everything for myself. I find it difficult to ask for help. Yes, I had a failed marriage. I'm afraid to go into another marriage, but I really want a partner. Yeah.
And this touches on the attachment styles,
Yes.
which is what we spoke about last week.
And you know what is beautiful about God, right? Just like she now knows, she knows what it is. She just needs to pray and ask God to give her the courage to now step the next step, to ask Him to heal that void. Because it must be very tiring to have to depend on yourself.
Yeah.
Because do we then depend on God the way like we're supposed to? So, because Craig said earlier on, you're not fully surrendering them. So you surrender, but to a certain point where I know, okay, God won't let me down now. And you don't even realize you're doing it, right? So maybe she must just be bold enough to ask God and say, look here, this is my desire, but this is holding me back. And I need you to help me to now overcome and heal this hole in my heart.
Yeah.
So that when I do have a partner, that, I'm going in there with a void that has now been healed, and I'm not looking at the partner to fill that void, because then that is also not going to be a great transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting emotional because there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
They got a lot of things, man. And us as Christians, we don't always get taught that we can talk about these things and say, I love Jesus and I praise and I sing, but there's a part in my heart that is broken, and I don't know what to do and I don't know how to get past it. So with us having these types of conversations, is to let people know that if you are broken, it's okay. God can heal those broken pieces.
Yeah.
But you just need to know what it is, or you just need to say, Lord, I don't know what it is. Just help me. I need you to fix what is broken inside, but I don't know what it is. I buried it so deep within my soul. I don't not love you. I don't not have faith. I just don't know how to get past this. Sorry.
Lead me and guide me. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think someone else agreeing with you, Tina, is Esmeralda. She says, hey, Natasha, Romeo, Tina, and Craig. In Swiss gewoonlik is dit Cupido's binne in die huis. Powerful topic, so fitting, so needed and appreciated. Thank you, Natasha and Romeo, and of course to the Cupidos. This station is definitely changing lives, and thanks so much that it's on Facebook to share and view again and again. Your in-your-face conversations and responses is what we need in this world. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I think I just want to just confirm something. Did we touch on the last part, the renewing of the mind?
No, we
Okay.
didn't. We kind of indirectly did.
Yes.
We kind of did, because the only thing I want to say about the renewing of the mind is, and please, you must quote scripture. I believe in scripture. I believe in the word of God. But sometimes, so last week when I shared, I didn't feel that I was pretty. I didn't go and say, you are a royal priesthood. And please do say that, but I had to go and say, you are beautiful. I had to speak directly to the thing that needed renewing, right? So if I don't know what needed to be renewed, and the Bible is instructing me to renew my mind daily, what am I renewing, man? So it's like I wanted to challenge people to ask God, what is really holding me back? What are
Yeah.
the things that I need renewed so that I know this is what needs to be renewed? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just the scripture that we say, and please, guys, I quote scriptures. I'm not saying don't do that, but there are things that is inside of us that we need to speak directly to. Like speak that word in like my feet, I say feet.
Mhm.
You know, I don't put on like this big global banner around and the issue is feet.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So that's what I want to say about Romans 12 verse 2. And then just on people being honest, you know, I just want to say I'm very proud of Craig. Okay, you're not very emotional here today.
Pastor O is also saying, baie dankie, Craig.
It's you know, I read a stat last night,
Yeah.
and it says the suicide rate in South Africa is 13,774, and that is in 2019. And of that number, 10,861 are men. Now I go, why are men so broken that they go to that is their only resort, right?
Mm.
It's because men get taught that you know they must be this provider guy,
Yeah.
this provider, this provision, and I go, so if Craig and Romeo and the pastor and the leader and the CEO, if they must be this protector and provision provider, but what happens if it's broken? What are we then receiving, man? And if that is broken, the family is broken, the church is broken, and I'm just tired of us sugarcoating stuff that is real,
Yeah.
and that men are broken, man. Why is the stat so high? And just so by the way, there was no distinction between Christian men,
It was men.
and it's just men.
Yeah.
So I go, if I'm serving the Lord, man, and he's why is there no way out? It's because they're not allowed. Men are not allowed to speak about things that is difficult for them, and we just don't create that culture.
Yeah.
And it's wrong.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, well done, Craig. I really am very proud of you because I know it takes a lot for him to share and now to share on the radio.
Live.
My style is very proud.
Oh, family, listen, on that note, gosh, every conversation with you, family, is just, it's so real, it's so needed. It's always difficult to say bye. But we just want to read some of the comments before we let you go, from people really just appreciating the conversation and your realness. I don't know if we can start with this one, Rob.
Saying good afternoon, guys. Today I will celebrate 23 years to be a CCFM listener. It's Pastor Faru from Belleville South.
Thank you so much, sir. And then Janine Liederman also coming through.
Saying hi, Natasha, Romeo, and the Cupidos. Loving the conversation about what you shared. Look at what you are feeding your mind on social media. Some people find it hard to love themselves because of their experiences. As you mentioned, you can turn it around through scripture and self-talk. Thank you for the investment.
Yeah. And then, of course, Pastor O is saying, special shout out to Craig. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, Donna is also appreciating the conversation. We've got a couple of messages coming through on Facebook as well. And Kenny saying, gosh, the topic is giving me goosebumps this afternoon. Family, before we let you go, where do our listeners find you? Should they need more advice, more insight with real issues that they face on a daily basis?
Okay. We also just want to say we are not counselors.
Disclaimer.
Yes. But what we realize is that the conversation needs to be had, and the conversation needs to be taken out. So if you or your church is looking for people to have a conversation about everyday issues that the pulpit doesn't always have time for, which is okay. And I'm not saying the pulpit is not doing its job, but contact Cupido Consulting. We are the people that are very, very willing to come and have the conversation and answer questions and speak about mindset. So you can email me, tina@cupidoconsulting.co.za, and just reach out to us, and we'll say, hey. I always respond to my emails, just so by the way. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. I think one more there quickly, saying thanks CCFM for having this conversation. Men need all the help we can get, and many times women have unrealistic expectations. We need to support men and sons. We have the same challenges in the church as we do outside of the church. And ending it off saying love Malcolm, that is from Mitchell's Plain. Thank you so much, Malcolm, for that. And that wraps up our conversation. Still many more messages coming through. I think there's just one more actually that I do want to mention right now. This person would like to be anonymous, saying, "This conversation saved my life today.
Wow.
I had made all the plans to take my own life. Everything was arranged. I was going to do it away from my home without anyone knowing. But the Cupidos saved me today." We need conversations like this. Here, that's a message that just came through right now from Anonymous. Anonymous, we are going to be praying with you as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for not allowing the evil one to
Yeah.
get the better hand, for not allowing him to take your life. Thank you so much to tuning in as well, into CCFM at the
Sure.
right time, and for making this decision. Your life is so much valuable. Just take heart. Jesus has overcome the world. Everything that you facing now, there is life. And listen, if you're obedient and if you worship the Father, you will eat from the land of the living. This is not the end. Thank you so much, Anonymous, for sending it through. We'll definitely send this to our prayer department, prayer team,
Yeah.
so that they can get to this message. Immediately contact Anonymous. And thank you so much, Cupidos, as well, for the conversation that was definitely needed and anointed for this very, very time.
Absolutely. In a bit, we've got news coming up in a few seconds. But if you need their contact details, drop us a text on 0617981075.